Running a business isn't just strategy, it's emotion. It's the pressure you don't talk about. It's the quiet stress behind the numbers. It's second guessing, the late nights, thinking about payroll, that feeling that you're further behind than you should be. Some days it feels like you're in control and on top of the world, and other days it feels like you're just trying to keep everything from slipping. In this episode, we're going to talk about how you can quiet that voice in your head and take control. So welcome back to Unfiltered Profit. Caitlynn and I are going to dive into the emotions behind business a little bit. This isn't just a woo-woo conversation, trust me, because we are grounded in the numbers over here. But I think this is an important conversation that either gets brought up in too much of a woo-woo way of like, take control of your mind, or we just try to go all strategy and numbers on it. And the reality is it's a little bit of a blend.
Always. I want to know, if you guys don't know, sometimes we have these like pre-planned or ready to go topics. This one was one where Seanna, very early in the morning, typed it out that this was a podcast episode we want to talk about. So I'm kind of curious, like, were you up at night the other night and therefore this crossed your mind?
I mean, I'm going to just be, as we try to be here, like pulling back the curtain on business. Caitlynn and I are running a business that we are scaling. So we're not shy about any of that. And the reality is that I think like most business owners, go from 1 week being like, this is awesome, we're killing it. And then 2 weeks later, I'm like, it's all going to fall apart tomorrow. Every bit of it, the business is going to collapse. And the reality is like, it's fine, but it's the things that stack up in my head. And in particular, for some reason, we attract messy clients, which I do love because I love the technical puzzle solving of getting everything cleaned up and good to go and good processes in place. And I've said it before, and I will stand behind this. We've never seen books too messy to be fixed.
Yeah.
However, sometimes those puzzles to solve, plus the timelines, plus the messes that are always bigger than they appear at first glance. I have lost a lot of sleep this tax season over a cleanup that I'm like, we should be done by now. We should be making progress on certain things. And it's like some things you just can't control. And I think we all feel that way as business owners, whether it's your numbers or client work or what it is, and all of the above.
Yes,
All
of it.
All of the pieces. And the only thing that makes that feel better sometimes is progress. Or, as we said, we're in the season of scaling, and you sit back and you go, all right, we need to get ready to make the next hire. But can we make the next hire?
Right?
Yeah.
For me, it was like, what if somebody leaves? Do we have the payroll to like fluctuate having two people here to do the same job? I was reading about layoffs or something like that. And I was like, oh no. And yeah, it's that quiet stress, like that nobody really talks about. And if you're running it solo without a business partner, then you don't necessarily have someone to talk to it about.
Yeah.
And it's just there. And then where do you find the data to quiet it some? Or are you an avoidant? Are you the one who's like, I don't even want to look at the data because if I see it, I have to face the problem. And you can get to a decent sized company avoiding the data.
Yes.
I mean, you're going to have stress along the way, but you can do it.
Yeah, I think one of the things that always makes me laugh. So Caitlynn and I are part of Provisors. I think we've mentioned that here. And so we do a lot of professional networking, and I will talk to people and I'll say, oh yeah, like we've been doing this cleanup on this like $20 million company. And they'll be like, oh, I just assumed that people by the time they made it to that point, they didn't have any messes. Like the only way you get to that size is without the mess. And it's like, no, messes can just have more zeros,
That's what it is.
Yeah, it's true. We all face challenges in our books, in our operations, all the different pieces. And, just because someone says what their gross revenue is, doesn't mean that that correlates to profitability either. I think we lose sight of that, even though we shouldn't, with watching Fortune 500 companies slip in and out of that bracket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think we talk about kind of like our ideal client has some engagement there. And I think There's a balance to find because there's engaged and there's knowing what's going on. And then there's too engaged where you're stressing every night about the $5 transaction. And then there's just not at all around. And you're like, I have no idea if we're making payroll next week because I don't know what's in the bank. So we like to find the one somewhere in the middle, but I think without having, and that's the thing, like, yeah, it's $5, but to some people, depending on the zeros, maybe it's a $5,000 transaction that is equivalent to a $5 for a small business, but for them, just feels crazy and scary. So as those zeros come around, it's still the same stuff that you dealt with when it was $5.
Right. And that's what you always hope, that you're catching it when you're still at the smaller, like pre-scale size, and getting everything cleaned up and operating well so that it scales smoothly. You're still going to run into bumps in the road. Like, this is not one of those like fix it once and set it and forget it for the rest of life. Like, as you continue to grow, you have more problems, and we all know that. But you hope that you can plug the holes on certain problems so that you're elevating your problems to the next level, I suppose. But yeah, it is very true. If you have bad record keeping processes at $600,000 and you don't fix it, you can still have bad record keeping processes at $6 million. And when you miss payroll because you didn't forecast correctly, you miss it by $60,000, not six or something like that. So yeah, the problems exist all through the spectrum.
How do they know the problems exist? Like, let's put on our kind of consulting hat and we've got a CEO, $800,000, just about to hit that 1 to 1.2 million. How do they know they have a problem without becoming an accountant?
Yeah. Or so what problem do they have? Or
the books are messy, right? Because so we've got a $20 million company cleanup we've been working on, right? That means they went from whatever level to 20 million, and it was messy the whole way, right? Like, this doesn't just come overnight. This has been mess upon mess upon mess. But I guarantee the CEO is like, I think there's a problem. I just don't know what problem, and I don't know how to look for it. So I guess it's fine. So like, I guess as a CEO, like, where do you kind of step in and be like, oh no, that for sure is a problem. I don't know how to fix it, but I know that's a problem that needs fixing.
Yeah. Okay. I love this. I think that the easiest, like, I was going to put a one size fits all answer on this. And this applies to a conversation that we've had recently. So I'm going to expand this answer up to about $500,000 in revenue. I think it actually stops a little bit short of this, maybe like 300,000 or 400,000. But to give round numbers, I'm going to say up to about $500,000 in revenue. If you're like, what is my problem in business? It's probably that you need a better sales system. You need to figure out how you can generate more revenue in order to put more parts and pieces in place and get work off of you. So you need revenue to fill positions, to delegate stuff off your back so that you're not waking up at 3 a.m. going, here are all the balls I've dropped because I have no one else I can pass this stuff off to. So you need revenue to afford the expenses in your business. Past that point, the answer is not more revenue. And I think that is where people get very stuck, because they're like, well, this is what's going on. Why don't I acquire, merge, any of these things that would ramp up revenue? That will solve it. Then I'll be able to afford the people I have on staff. Then I won't be stressed about payroll. That could work. I'm going to give some air quotes to could, because the reality is what you've probably done in that situation, if you're feeling like I just need more revenue at that point, you don't have efficient systems. You don't have efficient people. You're paying too much payroll for not enough output. You've structured your company incorrectly. Or you're wasting money on stupid things. I say stupid nicely because we all have these moments where we're like, well, that will fix it. Like the fractional CFO will fix it. Fractional whatever will fix it. Coach, consultant, that mastermind, whatever it is. We all have those insecurities that we go and we like seek the answer for. And in reality, I think people would be much better in that spot, figuring out, how do I hire an outside consultant to come in and look at operations? Or how do I give myself space if I have the knowledge and ability to look at operations, trying to be unbiased and say like, oh yes, every single employee in this like gets it, wants it, can do the job, and is churning out work efficiently. And I think what happens, and like this is what we've seen happen in much larger companies, is like they are not efficient with their payroll at 600,000. They scale that up to 3 million, 5 million, and it's still not efficient. And payroll is the biggest cost for clients that we serve because they're all human capital. They're service firms. They're working based on people's knowledge. And if that isn't efficient, your margins go down. And so it's a people problem and a margin problem from that standpoint. And so I think that's the number one fix. Go look at your operational efficiency.
And that does not mean you cut everything and offshore it. That does not fix your efficiently. Right? Because I can see it. I can see it now. Someone hearing this. Right. And they're like, oh, I'll just offshore it. Or I will just like, there's an AI plugin that will fix this for me, bot that will fix this for me. No, that's not what we're saying.
That's not what we're saying.
No. Please hear the message. It's not to go fix it with AI. Because I know you're thinking. So what you are likely seeing, so like let's put that in numbers in a profit and loss. What they are probably seeing is revenue that they would love, that they never dreamed they'd see. And they're seeing a negative net profit maybe. If zero, maybe a little, 5%.
Or slightly
less than 5%.
Yeah. And even if it's slightly profitable, what they're probably feeling is this is all I get for all this work I put in. This is it. Shouldn't it be more? I still am waking up on a, every other week or every other month or something when there's a lag in project work. And I'm worried about, are we going to meet payroll? And I'm thinking, should I get a line of credit just in case I need to pull from it? All of those things, they're still feeling all of those things. And if I were to look at their payroll as a percentage of revenue, probably not a good percentage that I would like to see.
And it depends on industry is what that should be. But yeah, it's a feeling of like bitterness, I think, too. Like as an owner, if you start feeling really bitter, maybe that, I don't know if men feel bitterness the same way women do. So I could be speaking, but like, gosh, I just want to have more time, or I just should have a higher salary. Like I've done all this. My colleagues at a corporate, like my equivalent at a corporation are making more. Why am I not making more? I went out on my own. It's that inefficiency, that operations problem. And honestly, a fractional CFO does not fix the operations problem. Like we have to put people in the right seats, and you want really good accountants to give you really good data. But if you've got an operations problem, like, yeah, the accountants, we can point it out and we can say, hey, what we can see is you have an operations problem. We don't live in your company, but the numbers tell us the story. Yeah. You got to go find the operations person to go fix that for you or with you, because you need to be engaged.
Yeah, because it looks to us, when we look at payroll and we're like, you have too much payroll for your revenue. You need to cut payroll. Well, you might be like, there's literally no way from a capacity standpoint, absolutely no way for me to cut payroll. And it's like, okay, well, it's not just cutting payroll. It's like, why is payroll where it's at? Like, let's not just put it as a concrete answer, but like, why is payroll here and revenue here? Like, they're not a multiple that we would like to see. Why? And then you got to dig deeper and figure out what it is that's causing that. And sometimes it is people hire ahead of their growth curve and the revenue's not coming in. And so the thing that they need to fix isn't the people, it's the marketing system. So it's not always an efficiency of people. Sometimes it's an efficiency of other systems. But you still have to go figure that piece out. It's not a simple cut and dry answer. And you can want to increase revenue all day long, but if you have no marketing system to do that, then, you might not get there. Exactly. It's just a hope and a dream.
Someday it'll show up.
Right.
And marketing changes so fast. Like what worked 6 months ago, 3 months ago is not working today. And if you're not a marketer at heart, you might want to find someone who is. Hopefully we can afford it.
Yeah, exactly. And that hope feeling, that's what stinks. And so I think that, because I know it's true, I think that adding data to it helps with how you're feeling. So anytime that I've thought about our operations and been like, things just feel messy. I feel stressed out. It's all because cobbler's kids don't have shoes, and I haven't sat down. We haven't sat down to look at like, where is the cash flow? Where are we coming? Where is the growth? And just sat down and updated that stuff and updated our plan. Because as soon as we do that, we kind of resync and we're like, here's where we're at. Here's what we can afford based on the things we're doing. Now here's the decision point. Like, maybe we're going to push a hire 2 months instead of doing it this month, or, whatever it is. And as soon as you have the data, you get to make the decision. And now you're not just like, well, I hope I can afford that person once I onboard them. That's not the answer for anybody involved in that situation.
It's all pain. Ask us how we know. No, not even that. Like, we are accountants. We work in payroll all the time. Like, we set employees up in states for us and for everybody all of the time. And when you set them up and like a month later, you're like, oh, I couldn't afford that. I have to take them out. Like, it is such a pain. So just save like the headache of yourself of like setting yourselves up in states and taking yourselves out, of having that data and a little bit of a plan and some savings. Because if you are hiring ahead of the revenue, which often does need to be done, right? Or else your quality of service or product is going to tank if you don't. And it's an art and a science. There's a dance to this.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, but yeah, it's not the one thing that you want to just like cross your fingers and hope you can afford those people. I know at the end of last year, I had quite a few conversations with clients. Can we afford this? What level? How do we do this? How do you tie salaries and commissions and bonuses to actual output? Yeah. I don't want a salary so low on anybody that they can't live off of it, but it's reasonable to put a marketer in a role where you gotta go out and kill something if you're going to get some extra money.
Yeah, I think tying comp plans to output is very important. And there is an art to that. And all of this is to say that, like, I don't think even with data, you ever get to the point in business where you don't feel any yucky emotions, period. Mm-hmm. That is not why you became a business owner. That's not why you, quote unquote, make the big bucks, or will once you clean up operations. That's the risk of it all. The risk of, can we meet payroll? Are we bringing in more clients? Can we scale the way we want to? The reward is additional profit that you couldn't get as a W-2 employee in the same position. But the data piece makes it so much better. So much better.
It does. Because, yeah, I mean, 20, 200 million, 200 billion, whatever the case may be, 2 billion companies, like, there's still some level of, am I going to have to lay off that team? Am I going to have to deal with it? If they're human and not robots, I think there's always that level of responsibility, because you know that you're in charge of people's livelihoods and stuff like that. All of those decisions are hard, and that emotion, like you said, stays there, but there are just more zeros behind some of that emotion.
Yeah. So I think using the negative emotions you feel as a business owner, the waking up in the middle of the night feeling, and I say that because, like I said, I've woken up a lot lately, and use that as the indicator of, all right, something's got to change, right? I can't keep waking up at 3 a.m. stressed. There is a solution to it. It's not like, well, I chose to be a business owner, I'm forever going to wake up at 3 a.m. stressed about something. Not true. So then find your solution, figure out how to get you the clarity you need to take that stress off of you. It doesn't mean the problem is solved, but as you start working on a solution, I promise you'll immediately start sleeping better at night, even if you're still just getting up every day to plug the hole that is there from an operational efficiency standpoint, or a marketing system, or people, or whatever it is, whatever the problem is in the business. When you have a plan and you're working the plan, you sleep better.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just a conversation, right? Just owning it, whatever the case may be. I'm just trying to think, like, in our lives, in our businesses, but just to extrapolate it, when you feel that feeling, right? That's the unknown. So if you can just go make it known. Are they really upset with me? Are they really feeling disappointed with me? Is the bank account really empty? Like, all of that, we can either have conversations or pull up statements and confirm it and be like, no, it's okay. Let's go back to bed.
Yeah. Shift from guessing to knowing, and things get so much better.
They do. And ask your people that you do have on your team. And if you don't have people on your team, you can ask, you should find some. Because
The reality is that generally your spouse makes a horrible person for that. Because the reality is if you're stressed, then they see that as a signal that things aren't going well for you professionally. And then they get stressed thinking that your business is about to collapse. So generally speaking, watching entrepreneurs all over the country, I know that they generally don't make great sounding boards. Unless it's something positive or you just want their strategic input and they know nothing about it, but you want a sounding board. But if it's like, I'm stressed about making payroll, that will stress them out too. So don't do that.
Don't do that. Right. Yeah. Ooh, I've been in some spouse-owned companies before as the outside accountant, and that's fun. Things aren't going well. Those are the moments where I'm like, I'd like to see myself out of this conversation, please.
Yeah, y'all need a minute. I'm going to go in a different Zoom room.
Maybe we can go find a therapist, bring them in, because like my financial therapy only extends so far before we're all feeling it. Yeah. It is true. It is true. And that's why you hire third parties who are objective and can help you and make actual changes. Let's not forget that part.
Yes, actual changes. Very important. No woo-woo. Not all woo-woo. Maybe that's the best thing to say.
Yes.
We are very much therapists to our clients, but we also give them the data and concrete stuff
to make changes. Because right, we can wish it all away. We can wish more money. We can wish more clients. We can wish that we exercise more. But until you actually take the steps to do it, to make those changes, to gather that information, it just doesn't change. And those nights keep happening. And that's when you feel insane because you keep doing the same thing over and over again.
Yes.
So with that, if you have had those nights and you're running it over those numbers in your head and there's just not an answer, we're not talking about necessarily discipline. It's just a visibility and a support in where you're operating at. So if we can ever be of help, you can find our number and email in the show notes. And until next time, this is Unfiltered Profit.